I can remember the first time I was introduced to Star Wars. I just turned 10 and my other friend who had a birthday in the same month was also turning 10. So his mother took us and a couple of our friends to go see the re-release of A New Hope in celebration of the special edition. I didn't really know what I was watching. I was 10 and never heard of Star Wars. But I did know that I thought the villain with the mask was cool. It wasn't until Phantom Menace in '99 that I realized how big Star Wars was and developed an infatuation with these lightsaber-wielding space wizards called Jedi. So infatuated that I had my dad rent the original trilogy in order to watch, understand, and make my connections. When I got to Empire, my mind got flipped upside down. Luke lost a hand, Vader turned out to be his father, there were black people in Star Wars, and his Billy D. Williams? Yo, my 12-year-old brain was going bananas. What ended up being way more important than these revelations was the introduction of one particular character. This mysterious bounty hunter in a cool suit, sporting a unique helmet, a high-tech rifle, jetpack, and a weird-looking ship. The thing I found coolest about him was that he talked back to Vader with no fear of getting force choked. Now I'm wondering to myself, who's this Boba Fett guy? This began a rabbit hole of personal fandom for characters with cool helmets and masks. People like Bronze Tiger, Vader, Hunk, Vector, Kaneki, Kakashi, Shino, so on and so forth. Fast forward to Attack of the Clones, and we were given Boba's origins by being introduced to his father, Jango, no D. Pause. The coolest, most dangerous bounty hunter in the galaxy and his son, Boba, or should I say clone. Then came the clone troopers who were also Jango's copies, making them the baddest troopers to ever exist in Star Wars cinema, giving us great characters like the ARC troopers, Commander Cody, Captain Rex, Echo, Fives, Wolf, the Bad Batch. So it's safe to say I have a really soft spot for the Fett family and the clone troopers. I was definitely one of the fans who wanted Lucasfilm to redeem Boba Fett for what they did to him in Return of the Jedi. Once Boba made his appearance in Mandalorian Season 2, I thought to myself, shit, Boba's back. And then...
I didn't know sidekicks were allowed to talk.
Easy there, little one.
You'll be talking through the window of a back-to-tank.
What the heck?
Well, at least he isn't dead. But then the announcement for the Book of Boba Fett came. I was ready. I couldn't wait. I was underwhelmed.
What?
To the Jayesh.
I'm sure by now, people, specifically Star Wars fans, who share my sentiments about this series are in the minority. Especially given the majority of people who found the sequel trilogy to be somewhat of a disgrace when it came to the plot and character development. Yet with the track record that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and the rest of the series directors had concerning the Mandalorian series outcome after 2 successful seasons, a lot of us rekindled hope for what was to come for the Book of Boba Fett, and to the contrary, it was more so leading into disappointment. Boba Fett, the legendary hunter of a galaxy far, far away, had been reduced to being grounded for the sake of relatability. I know, it sounds weird because usually characters we end up loving tend to be the ones who are written in a way that the reader can relate to and find understanding of who they are. Yet if we really think about it, most of us regular folk can't relate to someone who is a clone of their surrogate father. How many of us can say we were groomed by the fiercest mercenary in the galaxy and raised by other mercenaries who were his allies? How many of us can say we witnessed the murder of our parent and then spent most of our adolescent years chasing to honor their memory by taking on their dangerous profession? The amount of people who will fit this specific description will likely be less than 0.3% of the world. A majority of the people who will comment that they do fit while living in the States or in a westernized world,
Stop the cap!
you know damn well you ain't been through that much hardship. In a sense, I think we were duped into believing again that Disney was willing to do an original creation of George Lucas justice. Disney Star Wars has now successfully misconstrued, botched, and dumbed down majority of the fan favorites from the original trilogy. And now our beloved Boba Fett has to join the ranks, which has me potentially worried about Obi-Wan and his series now. Only Darth Vader has been given the opportunity to remain in a good light, mainly having to do with his short cameos in New Age live-action films, animated series, and video games. After finishing the first episode of this miniseries, I had this unshakable feeling of the worst is yet to come. In order for a serious focus on an iconic character like Boba, there were crucial elements that needed to work in order to garner success. These elements are action, development, cinematography, music, and most important of all, use of established canon. And out of all those factors, only cinematography and music were good enough to garner some form of praise. We all know Disney has enough funds and resources to have those two departments handled properly for any project they decide to take on within their established monopoly. The mouse got plenty of cheese, and there ain't no way you can convince me otherwise. Being a media and film powerhouse that sustained itself for at least a century means that they have the means stemming from the very inception of the American film industry, aka Hollywood. So let's get the good out the way because I got a lot of bad coming in contrast. As I stated, the cinematography and the music are up to par. With much practice to modernize the visual aesthetic of Star Wars when it comes to live-action depictions, by way of the sequel trilogy, standalone spin-off films, then lastly with the Mandalorian TV series. Disney has had enough experience in trial and error since acquiring Lucasfilm in 2012 to amount 10 plus years of experience creating and mismanaging Star Wars content. So the least they can do is apply improvements to the visuals as technology continuously evolves throughout the years. Never mind the overuse and exploitation of Tatooine. The atmosphere is visually appealing. Costume designs have been refined. We can see these improvements in both Boba's armor and the Tuskens. Of course the CGI is fantastic. The wildlife specifically when it comes to the Pet Massive, the Sand Ape, and the Rancor. But most impressive as always is the landscape and the use of technology. The robots presented in the live-action series never failed to impress, giving off a nostalgic clunky look like the original trilogy mixed with a visually enhanced performance due to modern advancements in CGI. The Pike Sand Train, the N1 Starfighter, and the Speeders, which have always been a favorite of mine since seeing Anakin on one in Attack of the Clones. Most impressive of all was the Glavis Ringworld. Being from New York and seeing Glavis is like a city kid's sci-fi dream. As much as it is an overused concept in fantasy stories, there's just something really appealing about cyberpunk sci-fi-esque environments that draws in fascination and marvel. The potential of technology showcased in a fictional world as an advancement which affords comfortability for the future of the human species in the galaxy or overall universe. The sounds are superb, specifically when it comes to the main theme of the series. It emphasizes the lawlessness, western desert environment that the characters in the series inhabit and carry out their adventures in. Now that I've gotten to elaborate on somewhat good in the limited series, let's get on to what 90% of the show comprised of. Reflecting on when I took the time to sit down and binge the first 4 episodes of the series back in January, I remember the exact feeling that made me question, what in the hell am I watching? Immediately taking to Twitter to ask several burning questions, while feeling so underwhelmed with how Disney portrayed the bounty hunter that I revered so much growing up. The amount of development, story, and character-wise was severely lacking to keep the attention of the audience on the main character of the show that it's named after. A combination of uneventful and overemphasized spectacles that added nothing to the legend of Boba Fett. I understand that Boba isn't technically a Mandalorian or considered one by other factions, but Ogun's beard, can he keep his word on who he claims to be? Or at least be consistent at it? To honor the armor that once belonged to his father, a once Mandalorian clan leader turned feared bounty hunter, and yet rarely embodies any of the traits associated with either of those entities. Both the ways of Mandalore and bounty hunting would consist of individuals seeking challenges, whether through warfare or conflict, forging themselves into battle-hardened warriors that earned their reputation through the business of death. Boba being raised by a true Mandalorian clan member like Jango, then after his death at the hands of Mace Windu, from his adolescent years being raised and groomed by some of the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. First by Jango, then transferred to legendary hunters like Bossk, Aurra Sing, and even Cad Bane. Being a child of these two worlds, you would think the outcome would be one of the most dangerous individuals to ever exist in Star Wars history. Yet this series displays the exact opposite of that outcome, and ironically, the show uses the name Boba Fett, yet the audience can barely tell if it's about him, his entourage, or the Mandalorian? It's so obvious how much influence Disney has in the scripting of this show. Very evident by Boba taking on this tradition started in MCU. Heroes with head coverings revealing their face a multitude of occasions when unnecessary. That alone goes against Mandalorian code, and since Boba doesn't swear allegiance to Mandalore, it's still not a good idea to do this as an effective hunter. While we're on the topic of doing things that don't make sense, I really don't understand how the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy for at least 25 years, trained and raised by a Mandalorian, doesn't have any hand-to-hand or close-quarters combative skill. So you mean to tell us that prior to being luckily captured by a not-so-rating clan of Tuskens, the #1 bounty hunter in the galaxy didn't know how to use his hands in combat?
Does not compute. Does not compute.
This scenario contradicts events in the Legends comics in the Clone Wars, where Boba is seen as a child showcasing martial arts skill, constantly being bested in confrontations that should have been a cakewalk for someone with his experience and expertise. Hey, Ming-Na will always be my Chun-Li, but goddamn, Fennec Shand heavily overshadows Boba in the action department. Is it me? Or is there like a pseudo agenda of women getting the best of men in these Disney Star Wars projects? Don't get me wrong, I like the infusion of Tusken culture with Maori tradition in order to honor Temura's cultural significance to Star Wars. But if you're going to have Boba integrate into a clan to find purpose, don't do it at the expense of his reputation and history. They very much so made him seem like some kind of idiot who's never been around the galaxy or just couldn't survive of his own. He's constantly talking too much, going on and on about
Respect.
when you're already gained it through your exploits as a bounty hunter. You would think Vector Tank would be his second language with how many times he mentions it in dialogues.
Get me to the Bacta pod. Get him to my Bacta tank.
All these flashbacks were really getting over the top to the point he gets so lost in them that he neglects to secure his surroundings, where somehow big ass black chrysanthemum gets the drop on him. They honestly could have compressed all those flashbacks into one episode instead of giving 2 full episodes to the Mandalorian. All the best attributes that should have belonged to Boba Fett were given to Din Djarin. Traveling the galaxy, bounty hunting adventures, gunslinging, fantastic hand-to-hand combat, stoicism, better relationship with women, and for the love of Oshun, not taking off his helmet every 2 seconds. What's most disappointing about this series is the development process, both in the case of the main character and the plot. We had a good reintroduction to Boba through Mandalorian Season 2, while Temura not being in the greatest of shape. We got a no-nonsense, martial skilled, tactile, weapons expert hunter that honored the memory of Jango Fett. Very reminiscent of the legendary altercation between Obi-Wan and Jango in Kamino.
Hey, that a motherfucking RPG? You got a motherfucking RPG? A RPG in a motherfucking backpack? Wait, can we talk about this?
Yet when it came to the Book of Boba Fett, it was very evident that Temuera Morrison was too old and not in the best of shape. I'm honestly surprised Daniel Logan was not considered since he portrayed young Boba in the Attack of the Clones. Albeit he's a few years younger in age than the current Boba in the series, but he definitely would have fit and likely would have been built up to the aesthetic. Or even the actor who portrayed the teenage version of the clones in the Attack of the Clones could have worked as well. From the inception of the show at the end of Season 2 of Mandalorian, I pondered what exactly was the plan after it was shown that he took over Jabba's territory from Bib Fortuna. Now I'm not naive to think that Boba being a bounty hunter for hire, having done vile things to get the job done and get paid, isn't innocent after a life-changing experience such as surviving a Sarlacc pit. Yet, what exactly does creating a crime family afford him since he is supposed to be turning a new leaf from his old life after being taken in by the Tuskens? How does becoming a mob boss help him live a safer life than being a bounty hunter going from gig to gig?
Does not compute. Does not compute.
He wants to gain people's respect instead of instilling fear, but ironically went to usurp a mob boss's territory for his own. Then went to extract resources and funds from the local populace as protection tax.
Does not compute. Does not compute.
In the real world, that doesn't gain you respect. That's still instilling fear and therefore considers you scum in the eyes of the innocent. You would think that someone with the experience traveling the galaxy doing odd jobs as a solo hunter would take the time to establish Tatooine as his base's operation. Now that he has acquired a large amount of resources that belong to a top-ranking Hutt, with those resources, instead of creating a crime family, he could have created a hunters guild, especially since he is familiar with and is in the good graces of so many bounty hunters already. I can tell they tried, as always in an effort to sway Star Wars fans into accepting what they cooked up, mixed with fan service and a pinch of Legends material. People have been begging Lucasfilm for years since Return of the Jedi to redeem Boba Fett, or at least let us know what happened to him. And after so many requests and decades of fan fiction since Lucasfilm didn't deliver, Disney seized the opportunity to draw us in and cash out, with minimal effort to make Boba's story utilize or flow with the now considered Legends material, starting off by mirroring previous fanfiction of how he escaped the Sarlacc, leading to his armor being stolen and taken captive by a Tusken tribe. Everything seemed to be going good until midway through his escape attempt by tricking the Mastiff to cut his binds, but then he asked the other captive,
Do you want me to cut your bonds?
Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
For a legendary bounty hunter, Boba seems to be extremely empathetic, which is contradicting to his overall conditioning from his father and mentors. Empathy was never a redeeming trait for top-level hunters, but somehow Boba possessed it at his core, and it continues to be a trend throughout the whole series. This is evidence of flawed writing, as empathy should have been a trait he gradually built, slowly integrating into the Tusken clan, after realizing his best chance at survival was to cooperate with the natives of this planet instead of continuing to fail at escaping. Yet he was way eager to help, and way eager to assimilate and forego his conditioning as a survivor too soon in the plot, which comes off dishonest, since we are given a concrete timeline of how long he's been in captivity to turn over a new leaf. Fast forward encountering the Pike Syndicate and losing his newfound Tusken family in a fabricated biker gang massacre. He's now motivated to regain his previous possessions such as his father's armor and the Slav One, which in that process affords him the opportunity to encounter and befriend two bounty hunters in Fennec and Din. So you would think that the best possible route to take after that would be to team up and take on jobs as a trio of expert hunters. Nope. He wants to rule a crime family, which goes against bounty hunting stance of having no allegiance to anyone, whether good or evil. You take a job, you finish the job, and get paid for the job. Something that Chrysanthemum and Cad Bane exemplify very well and had to call him out on his hypocrisy for.
All of that isn't the quack they're calling the stifling slimy. If that's not the quack they're calling the stifling slimy.
Never mind how they also did Cad Bane dirty. Dude could barely move his body or mouth and his face was stuck on Grim 90% of the time. The Cad Bane I remember from the Clone Wars TV show was a way more agile, calm, focused, and definitely not talking a storm.
Where are you taking me?
When operating or doing a job, mainly because he knew it could cost him his bounty and more importantly, his life, but I guess the showrunners didn't get that memo. It's really sad to say, but Boba Fett had way more going for him when he was a cameo in The Mandalorian, and unfortunately has fallen into the category of unnecessary spin-off. Instead of staying true to the mysterious anti-hero, they pushed him into being a protector of the people, which goes against his nature, and it doesn't mean he can't be honorable. Adding to that calamity was the constant overshadowing of Fennec Shand and Din Djarin, who literally ran the show. Fennec had the best action scenes, ran his empire, and kept him focused. Meanwhile, Din literally took 2 out of 7 chapters to himself and constantly outshined Boba in their scenes together. The show might as well should have been called Season 2.5 of The Mandalorian. Let's not even speak on the unnecessariness of checkbox top flight security and their shenanigans. But at least Black Chrysanthemum and Cad Bane came through with the Black Air Force energy. At the end of the day, did the show live up to the legend? My opinion? Nah. And I can't recommend or see the Book of Boba Fett as a New York Times bestseller. Disney should have invested more into this publication to secure the future success of this franchise. What was your take on this miniseries? Let me know down in the comments how you felt about the outcome of the Book of Boba Fett. Make sure you give your boy a good old like if you enjoy the content, and subscribe to the channel for more videos coming down the pipeline. You know the vibes. It's Kaizoku Sleven. Appreciate you.